Hi there, so here I am again on the Performer JC70. I mentioned in the initial video that I put up giving my first impressions of the trike that the one problem, the biggest problem I had with it was that the seat didn't feel long enough for me at the bottom. It felt like I was always perched right on the edge and that it needed to be sort of a couple of inches longer. And I'm a fairly sort of normal build, about 6'1", 6'2". I think I've got a 34-inch inside leg, so standard sort of size and height. In fairness to them, it's pretty amazing really that with a one-size-fits-all approach to these fiberglass seats, that it's as comfortable as it is. It fits my back nicely. As I say, it's just this feeling of being stuck right on the edge. I started by putting a little bit of plastic on top of the bottom of the seat to extend it by about 5 centimeters, which worked a bit, but I wanted to do something more permanent, so I figured that the best option was to make a fiberglass attachment. So watched a few YouTube videos on how to do fiberglassing and bought a kit online which included everything needed to make some fiberglass. I think that was about £25, I think. And set to work to make a fiberglass extension. Now I didn't film myself doing that. I've got some photos of the finished article. I didn't film it because I felt that I'd be filming myself making some fairly catastrophic mistakes. Now I certainly did make a few mistakes, but nothing that hasn't stopped it from being perfectly usable. So I've got some photos coming up here that show how I approached this, and what I did was I knew I'd have to use the seat as the basis for the mould, but with an extension built onto the front of the seat to extend that mould. And so I began by taping a load of cardboard to the underside of the front of the seat, and then I covered that in tape. And I got some modelling clay which I smoothed over it very carefully and very smoothly, sculpting it quite nicely. There it is with before it's covered in clay, so it's giving it a base to build on and put the clay on. And the clay, it was a lovely finish. I was very pleased with it and thought this was going to make a nice basis for laying the fiberglass on. And what I didn't appreciate with this modelling clay is that when it dried, it not only shrank, but it also cracked. I don't have a picture of it because I was too disappointed and just ripped it all off and threw it away. But I needed obviously a different approach, so I started again, also taping bits of cardboard and plastic to create something similar to the look there with the clay, but just built it up carefully with cardboard. And then covered it in aluminium tape because I had some lying around, which I then covered in PVA, which you can see shining there. I should have used apparently some sort of wax as a releasing agent for the fiberglass. I think I read somewhere that PVA was something you could use, but I found out later that maybe it wasn't the right thing at all. So there's the fiberglass once it's been done. That's before I've cut it, and you can see where I've scribbled on a marking of a rough idea of where to do that cutting in the black marker pen. I was quite pleased. That was 4 layers of fiberglass, resined on, 5 layers in a couple of places where I sort of cut bits off and slapped them back down on top of it. But I was quite pleased with how the thickness of it, which pretty much matched the seat as it was. And you can see in this little clip here, after I've cut it, that was cutting it with just using an ordinary jigsaw. I think I used a jigsaw blade for cutting ceramic tiles. Again, because that's something I read online was the right thing to use. Perhaps any old blade would have done the job, but you can see there the indentations of the bottom of the seat. So clearly that the moulding is absolutely perfectly right to sit on top of the seat and not move around. The holes I drilled in it, I did a little bit oversized. Those holes are obviously, you can see, much wider than the bolts that hold the seat to the frame. Partly because really I wanted a little bit of wiggle room, but also on the original seat where you put the bolts in, it's they're not dead central to the hole. Some of them are sort of on the left of the hole and some to the right. So I needed these to be a little bit wider. Otherwise, if the holes in this extension just matched the holes on the seat, then the bolts wouldn't have aligned. You can also see on the bottom there the line just about there. You can see the line of the end of the seat and where my extension begins. I think there's a photograph coming up later that shows that a bit more clearly. So what I've done on this is extend it by, I think it's about 8 centimeters at the front. So you can see that picture shows the indentations quite clearly. Really, ultimately I was quite pleased. For someone who'd never done any fiberglassing before and had no idea whether it would even work or I'd just end up with a sort of floppy, doughy mess, I was quite pleased. Again, you can see there the line of the original seat. As I say, that's about an 8 centimeter extension. So here's the original seat as it was bolted onto the trike frame, and coming up in a moment you'll see how much that's extended by with the new adaptation. There you go, which I put a black flow coat, top coat, fiberglass gel top coat I think it's called on. I don't know why, I don't know if that was necessary. But you can see there that it's extended it by a decent amount. What I haven't done is got a replacement. Oh dear, that's quite annoying, isn't it? I thought that would just show the difference, flicking back and forth, but hopefully that doesn't go on for much longer. Yeah, I need to either buy a new Ventasit type seat pad, the pad that comes with the Performer. I don't know if it's actually Ventasit, which seems to be the brand that everyone talks about. But it's certainly like Ventasit, the really nice mesh cover. At the moment, all I'm doing is using the mesh cover that came with it and sitting it further down the seat so that it gets to the end of my extension, which means I'm about 8 centimeters short at the top. But that's okay because I don't really sort of rest the back of my neck on the top of the seat. So maybe get a custom one from someone like Ventasit, or just leave it as it is. Anyway, I hope that was useful, and next thing is for me to get out there and give it a try and see how comfortable it is. So I'll let you know how I get on. Okay, take care, cheers, bye.